Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be looking in detail at the thunderstorm risk from this evening and into Thursday, including the risk for some possibly quite strong or even severe thunderstorms across parts of the UK. We'll start off though by looking at my thunderstorm forecast just briefly to give you an idea of which areas will be impacted. This is the one valid from now till around 10 AM tomorrow morning, and you can say we have two main areas. One from Wales into northern and northeastern England, parts of the Midlands down there as well, and then one across the far southeast, especially across Kent, where we have a level 2. And then for tomorrow, the risk then focuses across central southern England and then into the Midlands and parts of Wales as well. And this is the day 2 early forecast, so this is subject to change by tomorrow. I'll post the updated version then, and we'll likely see upgrades to high levels as the forecast increases in confidence. Just a quick reminder of the overall weather pattern which is driving this storm and heatwave risk. So this is low pressure to the west of us, and we have high pressure to the east of us. And as that's cleared away, it's allowed a kind of one more push from the south of warm and unstable air from the continent up through France and into the UK, where we've got those dark orange and red colours. And also the combination of the instability with the approaching lift from the low pressure to the west is allowing storms to develop, just because as a reminder, for storms you basically need unstable air and then something to cause the air to rise in the first place and use the instability. And it looks like we're going to have both of those through this evening and into tomorrow. It also means it's going to be quite warm as well, temperatures remaining in the high 20s and possibly reaching 30 degrees once again. If we start off looking at some current observations, you can see on satellite we have a quite large area of storms ongoing through northern France right now, quite active with a lot of lightning there, including approaching Paris where the Olympics are ongoing. And these storms actually formed with an area of kind of a mid-level disturbance, which I'll show you right here. This chart is the vorticity chart. Let me update the plot quickly. And basically it's just a fancy word for saying kind of spin. Or kind of rotation in the air, and generally it's a pretty good sign of where we've got rising motion, and like I just mentioned, rising motion is pretty important for storms. And you can see we have mid-level convergence here, winds coming in like this in this zone, quite kind of highlighting quite well where the storms actually are. And then also we have this dark orange shaded area, which is a kind of smaller disturbance, which is the remnants of a low which pushed up from Spain and Portugal a couple of days ago and actually helped develop this heat wave. But what we're going to see is this is going to move to the northeast, same as these storms moving to the northeast right now. And as that happens, it's going to merge with this other area of spin in the channel, and hopefully for the storm lovers, create a more consolidated risk across the southeast. So this is a chart now for midnight tonight, and you can see there's our low, and we also have an area of mid-level convergence, kind of roughly in yellow. So that's the region we're seeing here, kind of Kent and Essex and just generally southeast England, and that's why we've got the level 1 here with a level 2. Now the one concern is the amount of instability which could be in the area, because when you've got these storms like this, they can sometimes block the northward movement of the really unstable air into the region. So we don't fully know how much CAPE, or that's kind of the energy in the atmosphere, there will be. And if we look at a few different models, so this is a fairly nice kind of high resolution Swiss model, and you can see the wind is kind of pushing it. Let me change the color, actually white should be good here. So if you can kind of see, if you run it through, the wind is pushing it to the northwest into southeast England, and then this is around midnight when we've got that disturbance. So in this scenario we would have the two necessary things, lift and instability. But you can also see that we've got this area of really dark green in northern France, and that's what the model is trying to show as the storms here using up all the energy and then kind of preventing any of it from moving northwards. So it really depends if we can get the existing CAPE here, the existing kind of juice for storms, to move into the UK by tonight. And just for kind of argument's sake, I'll show a few different models as well. because as you can quite clearly see, we have varying levels of instability. This one here barely gets the kind of juicy air into the southeast. If I show the icon high resolution, you can see similar thing, that's a lot further south, whereas the models like the UKV have a lot of energy into the southeast there. Though it does seem a little unrealistic that none of it has been used up by the previous storms, so likely to not be as extreme as this. But you kind of get the picture. We do have the potential for storms to push into the southeast with the instability and moisture, and then hopefully we get kind of the lift, the convergence at the mid-levels and the rising motion, allowing those storms to utilise those instability. But it will be a fairly close call, hence the very, very small level 2 area. And if I show you the forecast radar from some of the models, you can see the UKV really only has it just on the tip of Kent, as you can see there. But the thing is, because there is so much instability that can possibly be used, if the storms do form, that's already assuming that the instability will be there in the first place, and since there'll be a lot of it, it's very likely they'll be very active. So that's why, although it's a very small area, we do have the level 2 in place, and actually that risk will likely continue from the night into the morning, as you can see here. Storms getting close by 1 a.m. on the hypothetical kind of future radar. Don't take this literally, because it's likely to be fairly different. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see storms forming with this as soon as midnight. But anywhere from kind of midnight and then through to kind of 6, 7, 8 a.m, we're likely to see storms in this general region. And if we take a look at the ARPEG model or the icon model, we can do both. You can see similar thing there. Storms just about brushing the coast through the very early morning, and that's associated with that disturbance. And then if I show you the icon, you can see similar thing there. Storms, yeah, this is more in line with what I'm thinking, because it's showing storms closer to midnight brushing the coast there. So could be a fairly active night for the far southeast, but it's unlikely to get much further kind of west and north than kind of Essex and Kent. But those areas, keep an eye on the radar, and don't be surprised to be woken up from storms from around midnight to kind of 8 a.m. or so, and in between as well. Now we do have this level 2 area across parts of northern England. Now this could be fairly active. It's also related to another mid-level disturbance, this one right here in yellow, which is going to move through during the early hours of the morning. If I update this plot just here. Oh, I don't know quite what I did. Let me zoom in quickly. Again. Sorry, yeah. So you can see this is the chart for 6 a.m. and there's our second disturbance in yellow, slight wind shift there. So that should be enough to trigger storms, and the models have that quite nicely. The UKV supports that there. You can see from the Midlands into parts of northern England, possibly intense, as you can see there. There will be just about enough elevated instability for a few lightning strikes. I'm not expecting anything super intense, but then again, it wouldn't surprise me. Similarly to down south, there is a varying agreement on the level of instability. As you can see here, the UKV has a bit more, but profiles will also be quite saturated, which generally reduces the lightning risk when there's too much moisture in the air. But I still think that this corridor could see a few lightning strikes through the period of kind of 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. You can kind of see the models agree with that there, and the icon also has a similar thing. Across the northeast. This will probably be more of a heavy rain threat though, but like I said, definitely a few lightning strikes will be possible. So that's the kind of overnight threat covered, and then the attention turns to tomorrow, which is actually looking like quite a big day for thunderstorms across southern England, perhaps the biggest day of the year so far, and I'll show you why now. So we get the as we get the kind of, let me change the chart quickly. So the wind will continue to push the unstable air from today into the UK for tomorrow, and you can see that if I run through this loop, it's not working very well, but if you see there, so the unstable air is kind of now slightly cut off from mainland Europe. You can see it does properly start to develop across central southern England during tomorrow, and on top of that, we're likely to have a very slight mid-level disturbance, which should definitely help with the lift. So you can see that quite nicely there. That's going to be the likely the same one which helps to trigger storms in the morning across the Midlands, but it lingers slightly to the south like that, and so you can imagine we're going to have some subtle, but subtle's are often just right to get storms going across central southern England during the afternoon, and then that coincides with pretty strong instability. I'll get this chart out again. Let's do 5 p.m. Yeah, so you can see this is on the UKV. And look, you've got very strong levels of instability all the way up through the northeast, and then the real kind of exciting bits through central southern England, where we've got 1,500, 2,000 joules per kilogram of CAPE, which is more than enough for strong storms, especially when combined with the upper level lift. And you can see models are generally in agreement, at least on the kind of location of that instability, as you can see there. So this is a more confident setup, and likely we're going to see upgrades to this outlook tomorrow morning. And I talked about the upper level lift, but that's not the only thing. We're also very likely to have surface wind convergence developing through the afternoon, and that kind of self-explanatory, basically where these surface winds are pushing together and creating convergent zones. So if I show you the wind chart there, you can see that quite nicely. Sea breezes coming in from all around, and the kind of slack pattern allows quite significant areas of convergence to kind of develop. And the main one that I've seen in most models across all of them, because obviously they don't have exactly the same thing, but the biggest one is this area of convergence just to the southwest of London. So I really think this area here is going to be the hotspot tomorrow, because the combination of air pushing together at the surface, and basically the only way it can go is up, also the highest instability shown on the models in this region as well, and then also the upper level lift helping out in this zone. So I think that kind of region will definitely become a hotspot for storms, and it's possible we see multiple rounds of storms, even moving over the same area, because the storm motion will be very slow tomorrow. So that definitely creates a potential flood hazard. The Met Office is actually forecasting as much as 100 millimeters over 2 to 3 hours, which would definitely cause a flood risk. And because the amount of instability is so large, we're also looking at the risk for hail and strong wind gusts, perhaps 40 or 50 miles an hour in any of the strongest downdrafts. And I'm going to show you something quite interesting now. This is the Icon D2 model, which is a very high resolution model, which shows a forecasted radar image. And don't take this literally, please, because models can't get things like this exactly right. They can just give a suggestion of what might possibly happen. But you can see, so number one, the area that we were looking at southwest of London's really lighting up here with very intense storms, dark reds and pinks showing where we might even have hail in there as well. But the thing that's got me interested is this forecasted updraft helicity. Now, this is a very, not quite experimental, but don't take this too literally, because when the model tries to kind of parameterize something like a supercell, it often doesn't go so well. But what this essentially is trying to show is rotation in the updraft, and this is not meaning there's a risk of tornadoes. This is mid-level rotation. There is very, very, very low risk of tornadoes tomorrow, but what there is the risk of is a couple supercells, as this model shows in this hypothetical scenario where we've got these dark red and dark blue colours showing where we have potential splitting supercells and also potential kind of right moving supercells like that. So potentially this increases the risk of large hail, and a few experimental machine learning products from ESSL have shown supercells. So that's kind of it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll do another update in the morning for the big risk tomorrow, but definitely looking at active lightning during tomorrow afternoon, evening, with the risk of flooding and also the risk of thunderstorms during this evening. Thank you very much, everyone, and bye-bye.